Welcome to another week of Final Fantasy XIII. I'm Dice, joined again by...
I'm Izala. Hello.
And so last week we crashed the national pastime of Cocoon?
Yeah, their
It was...
little NASCAR event.
Yeah. Um... Yeah, so Are we sieging Eden? I guess technically the Ark invasion is happening?
Well, as far as they believe, we're part of it. Like
True.
like us coming back and the invasion from all of the arcs is kind of the same event to everybody else.
It's just Pulse.
Yeah.
Big bad Pulse. But we're not necessarily trying. We're trying to save as many people as possible, but our real objective is to stop the cavalry,
Right.
who is trying to do what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. That
Okay.
sounds about right.
And we start right off with my not favorite fish people enemies.
They're actually able to survive here.
Not with just two of them and not having their little backup. It's definitely much easier. They have a very low stagger, so it's always a matter of pushing through on them. But there's a lot more of these packs coming up.
You would think this highway here is not their natural environment.
I mean, if they just came out of stasis, maybe they're just prime. They've been cocooned. Wait, for way too long.
Seem like they don't really mind. They're kind of just shuffling back and forth until you run up and attack them. They're not
I mean, the SciComm even did that when we were invading, the Palamecia the first time. So
it's true.
We're just going to... Aww.
It was close.
Yeah, I definitely want to get rid of them before trying to take on this behemoth.
I was going to say how nice of them to bring their behemoth friend along for this one.
The behemoths, I think it's HP based because they'll do a heal with it, so you can ignore them. The heave is definitely not as detrimental as it can. I think it's Sunder is the when they go on their hind legs and use the sword. We'll be dealing with some of that later on. Spoilers, this isn't the final behemoth.
What? Can't tell me they're going to throw multiple behemoths at you at the end of a Final Fantasy game.
I mean, we've also already had 6 variants of behemoth up to this point too. I think the first time when I played this and the behemoth shows up as the second or third fight, I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. At least it wasn't the behemoth's final form, though.
Yeah. Some would say it was the proto form.
Right.
I don't think I see it. I don't know what I was supposed to look at.
There's stuff flying around outside that's probably not supposed to be there. I'm not a cocoon zoologist, though, so...
Yeah, it's a little... So, we're going into this major area, but it's just refights of creatures from what we just spent the last 4 hours on Pulse fighting, basically.
Well, they did come from Pulse, but yeah, why do this again?
That previous monster we probably could have avoided on Pulse. So there's possibility of some fights, but if we fully explored Pulse, which we definitely didn't, you can look at my Seastone log for that. We probably would have encountered literally everything here at this point, and we pretty much have it up already, even without doing full coverage of Pulse.
Okay, now there's at least SciComm mixed in, so
And they're just standing around also waiting for us.
yeah. I mean, I guess they're not fighting those dog things in their immediate vicinity because those are also like SciComm affiliated.
Yeah, because
But
they've been modified.
yeah, but they certainly weren't fighting these behemoths either.
I think this
Well, this
behemoth
one,
has been
yeah.
modified.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this one definitely has.
but the weird fish things, the behemoth kings, they probably could have done some more you know, National Guard
Yeah.
work.
Hey, this one is actually a proto behemoth.
Called it. They always sold the technology modifications from the Greppa Whitewood as like, enhancing and making them better and everything. But every single one of these behemoths has been substantially easier than the Pulse variants that we've fought.
Yeah. Are the modified ones more susceptible to like the elemental magic? Because
Possibly.
it seems like they're easier to stagger.
Stagger in particular, yes. They typically have a much lower threshold, which I guess plays into the variant for control, because one of the
Yeah.
details in the data log is that they kind of bred them to have more control over the pulse variants than mechanical enhancements to basically make them more powerful from that standpoint.
Small details. A save point at the end of the hallway.
Whoa, we upgrade more stuff. Um, that was mostly for naught, and we'll get into that shortly. So yeah, it improves debuffing even more, which is great in most cases since I've been using Vanille to debuff. Let's just say there's a certain war mech that is not susceptible to debuffs.
Shouldn't he have been inside that?
He's honorable and he's the speak to you face to face.
At least he had good justification.
He's just such a non-character. I think he has up to this point, what, 5 minutes of screen time? You get 2 cutscenes and
Yeah,
hopes.
and like that screen time, he wasn't really even talking to the characters directly, really, because a lot of it was when he was like telling them to get out of Hope's dad's house.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't really developing anything. So yeah, he gets nothing.
Yeah, so this is the Proud Clad. It shoots at us for a while. That's it. That's the entire fight.
Yeah,
It's it is not susceptible to any debuffs. Um and it just does that one shot during this fight. Yeah,
it does have a face though.
It does. It has like a samurai helmet. Like it's very proud, and it's clad in armor.
Yeah.
It's for a boss going to the final area. It just feels uninspired, and I don't know how it could have been improved. I'm also salty because I upgraded the Belladonna one.
Yeah. And it's completely useless.
I mean, it has better stats than all of our other weapons because all of our other weapons are not upgraded at all. But yeah. And then it heals. So it already has 1.5 million HP, and then it heals for 30,000 or 300,000? 300,000.
It looked like 300,000, but I could be wrong. There's a lot of numbers because it wasn't one big heal.
Yeah. Well, you
It
can't break
was
the damage limit.
right. But it was like all of the parts healed, but like you can't target them
Well,
individually
that's the
anyway.
thing. There aren't multiple parts either. It's like the in Hope's Town, when you fight the things, there's at least like the armor that you can break, and like it has a different stagger thing, and it makes it. That's a better version of this fight.
Yeah.
So the one thing it has is when you stagger it the first time, it will buff itself. There is actually a way to just never stagger it. You use the stagger lock weapons, but you would have to know that that's the mechanic of this fight before coming in here.
Right. It's almost like this is really designed as more of a gear check than anything else.
100%. Yes. Yep. And even then, like I've upgraded our weapons. I don't because I'm me. I'm not running any significant defense.
Yeah.
Um, but the type of defense, because he just does physical attacks too. It's not like he's doing like a fire blast occasionally and an ice blast. It's literally just base damage.
That one like normal attack.
Yes.
He was literally spamming X.
I mean, I've done that for most of this game. He's the foil for us, apparently.
And then he just leaves. He apparently was also bored.
I don't blame him.
Well, and all of the falsy.
I'm pretty sure the populace just assumes that you're here to destroy Cocoon.
Yeah.
So, like, the end goal isn't really different anyway. It's just who's the perpetrator. And according to Bartandalus, and by extension, Hope, because he doesn't know how self fulfilling prophecies work, uh, you are also doing the thing that you say you're doing. This game.
Yes. It seems like everybody is confused in it, which is probably why it's so hard to follow.
It's just that every faction that we come across is basically trying to destroy Cocoon and also us for some amount of it.
Yeah, yeah, your healthy amount of just pulse hatred, kind of regardless of anything else. It's fine. I don't think it's being suppressed.
Yep, you're gonna take it on, dude. I intentionally did not fight one of these while on pulse.
Was there a reason?
I don't want to fight one. No, this is definitely a variant of it. I'm not sure. I don't think we even walked into them to get their name, but it's smaller.
Yeah, it's not the giant ones.
No. And I'm grumpy about getting hit from Quake while I was in the air.
This whole like class of enemy is definitely one of the ones that makes it more annoying that you can't directly control your character's movements because there's no way to guarantee you'll be in the air really. uh I mean, you could like delay your attacks or time them correctly or whatever, but like alternatively you could just jump.
Yeah. Like, and at this point when this game came out, there was stuff like the Tail series where you had like full area control and stuff. So there were things that could have, but even at this point, Final Fantasy is still tackling with how do you translate real time and turn
Yeah,
based combat.
yeah, and I think it's fine here. Like the turn-based battle system is fine. I think the annoying part is just that there's mechanics that are dependent on your position.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, why do that if you can't control it? That's just the weird thing to me.
Like you can't do a no damage run of this game.
Right. Like, even if it wasn't like full control, even if it was just like, frontline, backline stuff,
Yeah,
like when you would attack, where are you going to return? That's not even new to Final Fantasy. The frontline backline thing has been there forever.
yeah, true. There's a little bit of that with like who you pick, since we have Snow, Lightning, and Fang as melee users, and Hope, Vanille, and Saz as ranged users. But
Right.
even then, your ranged users will hang back and cause people to get AoE'd, or it doesn't play right.
Yeah, or even like, lightning does like random backflips out of melee range. The only reason I know like how much movement that is because if you watch the speed run, they do like weird things like cancel the attack animation so that she doesn't do that backflip and then have
Okay.
to like run up in the next turn. So it's like, yeah, she's getting out of melee range even. So it's a
And she
little
has a gun sword, so like that makes sense.
yeah, but she just did it.
So Humbaba.
Yeah.
I don't know where that name came from, but the Behemoth King, not the hardest behemoth. Uh, this variant sucks. So I have, what's my max HP right now? Somewhere around 5,000. Um, it has an attack that hits for 6, and it's an AoE cleave. I think we avoid it in any of the shots that I left in, but it definitely killed me multiple times, and it all depended on where Lightning was standing and whether or not she was the main target of it or not.
Yep.
Its stagger threshold is also 700%. So it comes from Pulse. It hasn't been modified.
Right. Well, it definitely did because I actually think, if I remember correctly, that is one of the Seath Stone missions.
Okay.
Like just straight up, I think it's the same enemy.
I wouldn't be surprised. I've done that a couple of times with other variants. But yeah, I can never seem to get the kill before the heal on them with my current power level. which even back when we were doing the initial farming of the Kaiser behemoth in the combo fight, uh, that was always the goal too.
Right. All right, I might need to take back what I said earlier about the SciComm soldiers not caring about the
Yeah.
Pulse invasion because they are actually fighting them here. Sorry, SciComm guys.
But it's okay, they deprioritized the Seath to fight me because
Yeah.
that mechanic in the Vile Peaks hasn't worked that way since the Vile Peaks.
Right. But they told you about it like it's going to be a thing.
Just like we're changing the weather all the time too, right?
Yeah.
And we're just gonna avoid the big stompy guys.
No, you don't want another go.
No, I'm good. That is a decent chunk of gil compared to like what we normally get out of the treasure chests. The weird like 9,057 gil and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you're like the cost for stuff kind of gets inflated quite a bit at the
Not
end.
wrong.
I mean, you're in like or near at least the capital of Cocoon, so you know everything's got to be fancy and expensive.
Yeah. But the Fal'Cie provide everything. Why I don't understand why there's a capitalistic society.
Do we know that it's a capitalistic society?
I mean, there's money, and
It's true.
they had to go on like a vacation, and like Hope's dad works. So I mean, not necessarily that, but definitely seems like there is variant.
I guess we're the closest we really get to like kind of like an imposed class system would be the scene at the well actually like one of the flashback scenes where the guard tells Lightning she's immune from the purge.
Yeah, military versus
Yeah.
civilian though.
Oh, hey, look. That's weird.
It's important that your doors have faces on them when.
Right. The other interesting thing is while you were getting into that other fight right before going through there, you can actually see the door close in the background
Yeah.
and lock, but then it just lets you through. So yeah, I don't know. I got nothing for that one. It wasn't very good defense.
It was bad AI.
Yeah. It's like, oh well, these are people, not the like giant tortoises walking around. So I guess it's fine.
Nice little garden enclave.
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate to come under Seath attack.
It'd be nice to just, take a walk through that. They had cities in this game.
Maybe be an NPC shop, upgrade my gear for Gil.
We can't do that in HD.
Have determined which way is critical path. And they both are.
Yeah. At least it's not a linear hallway. You have options now.
Oh, we haven't fought one of these since chapter 4? Grippa Whitewood boss?
I guess, yeah, that would probably be the last time. I'm not sure when you would encounter them. I see you have found the limit of his, his bounding.
How much he
bond.
cares.
Yeah. Although I guess this is like a pulse version of it.
I thought because that was
Because it looks similar to like those like pulse work knights in its like the technology parts.
Yeah, I just assumed it was always a SciComm thing because of where it was positioned. Because it was like it was on the upper side of the end of the Grepper White Woods, which was always like the
Well, I think that
modified.
one looks much different than this.
Yeah,
Because
I
that one
didn't.
was clearly like a SciComm slash Cocoon, but this looks like it may have been like Pulse had their own version of the
Yeah,
same
maybe.
thing.
I just because it looked so similar to it, it was just like a color change. I think I just assumed that it was the same classification, but you're probably right.
I guess there's no way to know without looking at the data log, but who wants to do that?
And I'm mad because they get double bravery.
Oh yeah, they do. I also like that, like when you ran into them, they were like, "Oh, you caught me in the middle of a jog."
Yeah, like we fought them last time. They always buff at the beginning, but they are much stronger because end game. Um, but their stagger threshold is still pretty low. Good thing we'll never fight them in combination with anyone else.
Of course not. Still getting 5 stars.
Still getting the base credit chips from end game enemies.
Yeah, it's fine. You got 6 particle accelerators. Are you sure you should just be walking around out here?
It sounds like there was a sanctuary area they were trying to get to, and they're just not allowed in now. But yeah, the casual stroll around both SciComm and Pulse enemies.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they also thought it was a nice park.
Yeah.
It's like a good place to die.
Yeah, pop up bunkers. That's what Cocoon needed. Yep, we'll never fight
No.
them together with anything else.
The real question is, do they buff the other enemies? Wait, do they?
No.
Okay.
The frog things buff themselves too. Um, but the frogs would stop me while trying to burn down the huntresses.
Gotcha. That was almost a preemptive strike.
They were positioned so very specifically to avoid that.
And like these are literally the same enemies from Tower.
Yes.
Everything.
So I wonder if the fifth arc had already transformed Seath on it, or it locked away people that were also on the arc, like failed plus
Right.
C from there.
I'm trying to think. Like when we went through the arc, did we fight any Seath? I don't. Well, besides Sid, I don't actually remember if there were any Seath there that you fight.
I thought there were some on the bridges, but it may have been the dancing things.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Like, were they on there as Seath, or I mean, it's hard to believe there would still be people alive after 600
Oh
years, but
yeah.
like they could have been in some form of stasis. We know the Fal'Cie can do that and bring them back at this point. got him this time.
I had to check for chests over here. I don't think I'm gonna be so lucky going back. Don't even try.
Okay. Not worth it.
But also didn't get a preemptive strike, so I'm very
That's
confused there.
weird, because that looked like it should have been like a clean preemptive. Don't worry, there's more.
I can use the pillar to my advantage.
I like how in the description it says increases or recharges the TP gauge slightly even after a bad battle rating.
Yep. But you get it so late in the game, it's
Right. I mean, I know why it says that too. It's just kind of funny because like you do get TP recharge based on the battle rating, but it's just a funny way to word that.
oh, trust me, I've gotten plenty of fights where I got barely any TP back.
Yeah. Oh, Vanille died there.
She's fine. She got better.
Yeah, she wasn't the main character or like leading character at the time, so it doesn't matter.
I think these guys actually cast Death also. I don't know if that's what killed her or not. She just got focused.
I would have thought I'd remember that after how susceptible I was to that in this game.
So happy I got the preemptive strike. And also, these guys are fighting each other.
Oh, yeah. So that is interesting. So I guess the thing isn't Pulse affiliated then, because we know the Tyrant is. They were on the Arc. So that other thing must be like Cocoon.
Yeah, it's a Psycom defense harvester.
Yeah, for stuff.
I mean, it's possible that that's the device enemy unit that they use to capture pulse things. It would make sense to deploy them here. And how it was the warden in the Greppa Whitewood.
Well, a beefier version of it, at least.
Yeah.
Well, the last one of these opened automatically.
This one's locked by a cutscene.
Oh, there's the Sanctum logo.
I like how I tried pushing a door that goes up.
Yeah.
An asshole revs their motorcycle.
Again, it's very important for your doors to have like human-like bodies.
Yeah, how else are they going to keep out the riffraff? Well, we haven't seen you guys since chapter 1.
Good thing they were there to open a door.
Yeah, I should have called.
Yeah. Was being hunted down, maybe? I thought we were going to destroy it.
Who's the dweeb?
Yeah.
Hey guys, can you not call yourselves that? It's my mom's name.
It's a little insensitive. Hope is right there. And they were never seen again. Probably.
They had a very satisfying story arc.
Yeah. So yeah, funny thing about the faces and like human body like things on the doors, they are probably actually falsy. Uh, there's a short story in the Ultimania that kind of talks about all the like random like what they called civilian falsy, and speculate that there's a lot of them, numbering in the millions even, and they specifically mention that some of them are like doors. Uh, and oddly enough, also save points. So canonically, the things that you save and shop at are actually falsy.
Destroy them all. Wait.
Right. We don't seem to care about those.
It's like the dragons from 14, where the number of generations you're away from like the originating ones, you kind of lose your sentience, I guess.
Right. Yeah. They're just so far removed from Bartandalus that they're like, yeah, I don't really care.
I I just want preemptives. Let me preemptive strike anything.
It's a Humbaba again.
I knew what I had to do going into this one.
Yeah. The preemptive helps a lot.
Yes. And I really wanted a preemptive strike on one of these guys, and I almost pulled a double Humbaba
Oh no.
with not preemptive. Yep, there they are. They're like, hi.
It's like you're just out of their range where they care.
The steam cleaners were just not cooperating, so we ended up running back. I needed to know whether or not it was a new steam cleaner, and no one's cooperating.
They're too good. Did you not have any Decepticals?
I think I have plenty. I think our friend Bhakti actually gave me a whole bunch, but because I had none for so long, I don't think about it anymore.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so
eventually you can buy them. It's just very late.
and yeah, so it ended up being the same enemy type that we fought at the end of the mines. So yeah, bosses becoming regular enemies. And we're just going to avoid these. We're planning on killing basically God, but we're gonna just ignore some basic enemies here.
Cool. So I guess because they don't really do a great job distinguishing between the two, the name Eden actually refers to both the capital city as well as the Foul Sea Eden. It is both things.
And
So
I guess what is Eden? Because the sun is actually Phoenix, right?
right.
Sun, quote unquote. The
Yeah, they kind of like describe it as kind of like the Eden being like the network that links all of the other major cocoon fallacy together.
okay,
So it's not clear like what exactly it is in the way that like the Palamecia was the airship or
yeah.
whatever.
And Orphan's the source of power for Eden.
Right. Convenient. You didn't have to fight that one.
Yep, we're just gonna stand here for a little bit. It's fine. Nothing to see here. And go through these security gates. But on that cutscene, I was also wondering. So Eden is the city. So Eden as the city
Hmm.
is also connected to where Phoenix was. Like, because when we left from chapter 3 to chapter 4, we flew up and saw Phoenix and did the whole thing. So Eden's actually above where the sun is, but it kind of like crested around. How does this city get light?
That
And
is
also,
a
wouldn't it be really bright if you're that close? Because
that is a
physics.
great question.
Like I can see because you're inside, the light could reflect off of whatever like water surface and come back, but I feel like it wouldn't be that much in any place that was
Right.
if
The
the city.
the way that I've always kind of like I guess canonized it in my mind is like when they like that cutscene where they look at the sun, quote unquote, and Lightning talks about it being Eden is just like, well, they were in the same place. Like
Yeah,
relative to where she was is like indistinguishable because they were so far away. But like, yeah, I don't really know.
like when they looked up, there wasn't really like the sun thing. There was like a reflective plate thing, so like they could just be reflecting some of it back into the city, but
Right.
something with parallel beams of light and stuff,
Yeah.
physics
So
in video games.
in the data log, the way that they describe Eden the Foul Sea is really just like supporting the day-to-day existence and communicating, like being one of the few Falsi that communicates with humans, but mostly around like administrative affairs with the government.
Gotcha.
So they, yeah, it doesn't really mention much about the whole like sun aspect thing, whatever.
Yes, I know the data log called out Phoenix specifically
Right.
as the sun, and it even talked about how people will misconstrue the two because Phoenix is basically part of the city of Eden, but not actually Eden.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. And since this is really like the first time that we see like a normal ish looking setting on Cocoon, like it's not just, part of the purge, it's not the flashback in Bodum. It's the first time
Yeah,
we actually get to walk around like what would a normal citizen actually encounter? I mean, I guess when we were in Palampolum, it's really second time because we did go through Palampolum. But I guess this is significantly more upper class important
yeah, yeah.
than even Palampolum was. And I think the building that we're in now is technically Eden Hall, which
Yes,
is the building that is like host to the government. And of course, the government is called the Sanctum. In case that's not completely clear, if that's I guess like their legislative body, although they hold executive, legislative, and judicial power according to the data logs. But it's like I think supposed to be a body of people that make up the government, not just one person. And the government is supposed to be all humans. They don't know that Daisley, like the general
yeah.
populace, isn't aware that Daisley is actually Bartandalus. They don't know that.
Would they even know a Bartandalus? Like,
I mean, they might. They definitely know about some of the other fal'Cie.
yeah,
Like
I mean,
they clearly know about Eden,
yeah.
being the
They
namesake
always
of the
presented
capital.
Daisley as the voice of Eden to the Sanctum,
Right.
but I would assume there's not a lot of, or Bartleby
Yeah,
as
Bartleby.
because like if you knew of Bartandalus and you knew what Bartandalus's like role was, then that calls into question what the point of Daisley is. So it's probably like suppressed information at best.
Yeah, it could be. After all of the fal'Cie are kind of conspiring together to make his plan a reality.
Yeah.
There we go. There's Hope's explanation.
Yeah. It changes nothing though.
Yeah, not really. The implications are pretty subtle.
Rocking a hard place.
Yep.
Had to check for any item boxes.
Yeah.
I definitely had a preference on which one of these to fight.
You can pick one.
I'm lucky I'm very happy it's not a joint fight with those. The joint fight with the Tyrant was fine when I had a preemptive on it. I don't want to deal with that sword again.
And getting debuffed by this guy while you're trying to deal with it.
Yeah. Now that I have Saz, debuffs aren't as bad since him applying a buff wipes out that similar debuff. I also
Fair.
have Asuna on medics, so I actually appreciate when they're doing debuffs now because then it's a choice that I can make to either ignore or push through. Those are the same thing.
You basically get double value in clearing the debuff because you can not only clear it but then get the corresponding buff at the same time.
Yeah.
Any more Sanctum troops there again after you just fought all of the, Pulse and Vader majigs? Yikes.
I guess it's good that we can't get rebranded, right?
Yeah. You're kind of like immune from the cocoon fal'Cie turning you into a Seath. Decent upgrade.
Yeah, just something I ever really internalized how much like a single stat point mattered. So going from 120 to 130, like you get a whole bunch of stat points in the Crystarium at one time, so it's always just feels like it's skewed. And yeah, we are picking up a lot of the each person's individual unique combat ability, which I still don't use.
Saz's is actually really good because, well, I don't know if it's like intentionally really good or if it's just an artifact of how it works and how the battle system works. But you can pretty much abuse it on single targets to get a lot of damage out because he kind of just does like an AoE. But if it's a large enough target, all of the AoE strikes will hit one target. And I think it's more
Oh,
damaging than just the normal attack if you just spam
okay.
it.
And I've been spending a lot of time with these guys. They are considered one of the best things to farm near endgame. See what they drop here. Scarletite is an upgraded mat that sells for like 7,000, and they also, if you remember when we sold the rewards from Bhakti, we got perfume that sold for 12,500. They also dropped those.
Nice.
Numbers are hard.
Yeah, they are. I guess it's like somewhat interesting that they're named Sacrifice after you just watch all of them just get turned into Steve for essentially no reason.
Yeah.
I guess other than to like taunt you more or less, like remind you of what's going to happen if you don't do what the fallacy said.
And literally, they could just sacrifice literally everyone.
Right.
I can't really tell there if the harvester is working with or against the sacrifices, or if it's kind of like a free man's brawl.
It's fine. They haven't used that mechanic again anyway.
It's so weird.
I like when you use like the Ruinaga or Ruinga, whatever it's called. The camera like tracks the projectile sometimes.
Yeah. Get like stabilize effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, Runga is really good against them since it interrupts them, and they have a significant suite of debuffs they can apply. I think they are also capable of casting death.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I was so ready to have two of them. Non-preemptive there. Yeah, this looks like a boss fight.
Yeah. Oddly familiar one.
So he's a Seath piloting this, right?
I mean, the ship almost sort of looks like one.
Follow my lead.
But upside down. That's a different attack.
That's so weird. Yeah, so it's a different fight. It's not any better.
He definitely attacks more often.
It's not even his final form. The
Also, HP is not moving very quickly.
no. Lightning really wants to launch, and it's just not going up in the air.
the few enemies that you can't.
Yep, still immune to everything, and basically the exact same fight, except that it has two forms. Its other form is the fight that we had earlier. Yeah, it's alternating between the ground mode is AoE to everybody, and the air mode is the single target force.
Or is it just as uninteresting as the earlier encounter? Just switches between two modes.
It does the same thing in either mode, and you don't really control what mode it's going into. And it will also buff itself regardless of if you stagger. So there's less external manipulation you can even do on it. So it's just... This fight definitely feels like a hard gear check. And a gear check for knowing that you're going into this fight. I think it took me 7 or 8 tries. With how long this fight is, it can drag on. It's very health spongy. Because while it looks like we did about a quarter of its HP in the first stagger there, that doesn't persist.
Follow my lead.
It's very much about making sure that your debuffs or your buffs stay up and get as much healing as possible. I think Vanille ends up hanging out in medic most of the time. If you're actually following it, basically every time I attack, I'm just swapping modes, so we get an ATB refresh. Without that, I don't know if Vanille would be able to keep up with healing. And the less time that she spends healing, the more likely we're able to do damage with her. Yeah, when it powers up this time, it at least gives itself debuffs, so it takes slightly more damage. But it healed itself for 40% of its HP.
Do you know how much HP this one has?
I only pop it up briefly, so I missed how much. I know the previous one had 1.5 million. This could be the same. I would expect to see something more. The part that's the gear check is the recommended item to have equipped is the Royal Bands, which you can upgrade to be 10% all damage reduction. And we actually just got the ability to purchase those. I did not check the shop before coming here, and did not realize it was going to be such a struggle to get through, and I wasn't walking back the bridge to go buy them.
Doing all the sacrifices again.
Yes. The strategy I never try is to use a Sentinel. The Sentinel would help during the air phase, but I don't think it would help particularly much during the ground phase, since it's an AoE beam. And the fight would even take longer then because the Sentinel doesn't really do damage.
Yeah, they kind of don't attack at all, I guess, unless they get countered.
It's the counter attack.
Yeah. But that won't happen on AoE. I don't think.
Yeah, the fight takes so long that I have to have Saz refresh, haste, and other buffs multiple times, and I think he has the ability at this point where it extends duration of already existing buffs when new ones are applied, so stuff is falling off.
Yeah. It is very long. Oh, sorry.
You're good.
There's some speculation that the name of this might be a reference to there's a boss in Final Fantasy VII called Proud Claw.
Ah, okay.
And there's a bit of parallels in that it's piloted by Scarlet and Heidegger. So they're both piloted by kind of like members of the antagonist like organization.
Yeah.
Follow my lead. Let's go.
Yeah, I got 100,000. Yeah, 100,000. Yeah, it's the target time is almost 12 minutes. He's not a thief.
Rush, it's over.
One of my soldiers. I see.
Why are you doing this, Rush? I mean, haven't you done enough?
Enough. Under Foul Sea orders, I've orchestrated mass murder. All to answer the fears of a panicked populace. For a people utterly dependent on the Foul Sea. It was the only solution I could offer. Even if that solution was a farce.
Then, you knew the Foul Sea were using us?
I believed their rule was best for Cocoon's present and future prosperity. But it seems I misjudged their benevolence. If this is my punishment, I accept it.
So, you're just gonna let everything go to hell, is that it?
You're right. One thing remains. This is SciComm Director Roche. Attention all SciComm and Guardian Corps units. Suspend L'Cie operations. I repeat, suspend L'Cie operations. All units should focus their efforts on evacuating the civilian population. I do not issue this order as an absolute. You are free to make the choice.
Rush!
Go. You're here to save Cocoon, aren't you? Or was that a farce as well?
Stay alive. We'll see you when it's over.
I don't know about that, Snow.
And, you know, he told his soldiers to help the civilians, and so all of his sins are absolved, right?
Right. Yeah, we can do all of the character development in one cutscene.
I'll trust in your humanity, L'Cie. The fate of Cocoon is in your hands.
These aren't even the hard ones.
This is my end.
He's in kind of rough
The
shape,
end
though.
which I have chosen.
So we have successfully infiltrated Cocoon's seat of power. We'll see who else we take out next week. Thanks for watching.
See you next time.